The concept of a cultural practice is probably one of the most important concepts for teachers of multicultural students and multilingual learners to understand. So what do we mean by a cultural practice? Just about anything a human being does can be called a cultural practice. The way we come together, the way we walk down the street, the way we eat, the expectations for who spends time with who, what we like to do. What happens when people share cultural practices is that we begin to over-identify the cultural practice with the group of people who participates in them. Cultural practices have their own boundaries that cross language, ethnicity, gender, and race. So an example of a cultural practice might be using a fork, as I said, or participating in sauna, or eating spicy food, or going to school at 7 in the morning on the bus versus going to school at 9 in the morning by walking or being driven by your parents. So the idea of a cultural practice and why we care about them is that we want to get away from labeling our students and thinking that because they are a girl or a boy, or because they are a particular religion, or because they come from a particular country or place, that automatically they are going to participate in a set of cultural practices that we have predetermined for them. I want to ask a question. Does everyone who shares the same label like or do the same thing? Do all Mexicans like spicy food? Do all women and no men wear makeup? Do all Finns like sauna? Think about that for a minute. Of course, not all Mexicans eat spicy food, though when we think of Mexican food, we may think spicy. But people who self-identify as Mexican participate in different culinary practices that are often associated with the geographical regions where they live or where their family or heritage groups come from. But you will find that there are many Mexicans who do not eat spicy food, depending on their personal preferences or the part of the country they come from. And there are many non-Mexicans who like Mexican food that is spicy. There are many Finns who like sauna, but there are individual Finns who do not, and they do not participate in it. And there are many non-Finns who can choose to take sauna and enjoy it just as well. So take a moment to think of a stereotype of some aspect of your own identity. Does it hold true for everybody you know? If not, why not? What's something you like to do that wouldn't be typical of your identity as a man or a woman, or as a Finn, or as a Russian, or as somebody who is heterosexual or homosexual, or as somebody who comes from northern Finland or comes from the south? Think about this idea of cultural practices and try to separate the people and the students that you're working with from the practices they engage in, because cultural practices are a choice. We choose whether to eat with a fork or chopsticks. We choose whether to go to sauna or not. We choose to stand close or far away from somebody else when we recognize that somebody may have a different preference than we do.